Greetings and welcome to GamezMadeEZ. I'm Dan Z. Today we look at the 3 to 8 player game Bang the Dice Game, Old Saloon by Michael Palm and Lucas Zach. This is the expansion to the base game Bang the Dice Game. Several cowboys have arrived into town, but no one's quite sure who's here in peace and who has ill intent. The only person everyone knows is the sheriff, and he'll have to observe everyone's actions in hopes to find the outlaws who are here for no good. Can the sheriff keep order in the town? Will it be overrun by outlaws, or will everyone die to the native Indian tribe residing nearby? Let's find out by opening the box and setting up the game. Place all dice, arrows, bullet life tokens, ghost tokens, and ghost cards in the center of the table. Shuffle this deck of player cards and deal 1 to each player. Each player reveals who they are playing and reads aloud their special ability. They then collect the number of bullets shown on their card. These signify their life points. If a player ever runs out of bullets, they have been defeated and are removed from the game. The triple bullet tokens can be exchanged for 3 single bullet tokens, or vice versa, at any time. Group these roll cards into their separate categories. Shuffle each pile and draw, face down, the number of cards shown in the rulebook dependent on the number of players. Being that I'm setting up for a 6-player game, the rules instruct me to place 1 sheriff, 3 outlaws, 1 renegade, and 1 deputy into a pile. The remaining roll cards remain hidden and are returned to the box. This pile of roll cards are now shuffled and 1 is dealt face down to each player. Each player looks at their roll card secretly, making sure no other player can see it. The player receiving the sheriff reveals their roll card and activates the special roll ability listed on the bottom of the card. In the case of the sheriff, he plays the game with 3 additional bullets. Your game is now set up. Bang the Dice Game, Old Saloon, is won by the player or group of players who achieve the goal of their roll. The sheriff wins if the outlaws and renegades are defeated. All the deputies win if the sheriff wins. All outlaws win if the sheriff is defeated. And a renegade wins if they are the last cowboy standing. If all cowboys are defeated, then the Indians have won and all cowboys lost. The game is played in a round of turns, starting with the sheriff and going clockwise around the board. On each player's turn, they'll roll a set of dice and have up to 2 rerolls. The results of the dice determine what actions the players can take. Let's look closely at these dice. There are 2 types of dice, the 5 basic dice in white and the 2 special dice in tan, the loudmouth and the coward. A player must roll 5 dice on their turn. They may choose to either roll all 5 basic dice or opt to roll 4 basic dice and 1 of the special dice. A player may never roll both special dice in the same turn. Once the dice have been rolled, these are the 5 dice they will use for the entire turn. A player may not roll once and then decide to trade out special dice for basic dice or vice versa. After their first roll, a player may pick any or all their dice to keep by pushing them forward. Any left back are re-rolled. After their second roll, the player may decide to keep newly rolled results by moving them forward and or move some dice back if they have changed their mind. If any dice are left back, they are rolled a 3rd time. After this 3rd roll, all dice must be pushed forward and used as they stand. The symbols showing on each die determine what actions can be taken. The symbols must be resolved in order listed on the player aid from top to bottom. The arrow, broken arrow, bullet, and dynamite actions are taken immediately after rolling them. All other icons take effect only after all 5 dice have been pushed forward, whether by choice or after the 3rd roll. We'll now go over what each icon means and in the order they are resolved on a player's turn. This is the arrow symbol, and it represents attention by the local Indian tribe drawn to you. When the arrow symbol is rolled, a player must immediately take an arrow from the pile in the center of the table. If this arrow taken is the last one, then the Indians attack. More on this later. This die may then be pushed forward to avoid re-rolling or kept back and rolled again. This is the broken arrow symbol, and it only appears on the coward die. It represents Indians' attention drawn away from a player. When the symbol is rolled, a player must immediately take an arrow from any player and put it back into the center. A player may choose themselves. They are not allowed to return the yellow chief's arrow if a player has it. This die may then be pushed forward or kept back as usual. This is the bullet symbol, and it only appears on the loudmouth die. It represents drawing negative attention to yourself from the other cowboys. When this symbol is rolled, the player must immediately lose 1 life token. If this was his last one, then he's defeated himself. This die may then be pushed forward to avoid re-rolling or kept back and re-rolled as usual. This is the dynamite symbol. When rolled, this die must be pushed forward, not allowing it to be re-rolled for the remainder of your turn. If 3 or more dynamite are pushed forward, then all remaining dice must be pushed forward and played as they stand, even if you have more re-rolls to use. You take 1 damage from the dynamite, and then may act on any other non-dynamite dice as normal. Here we have the shooting icons. Each icon pushed forward by the end of your turn represents you taking a shot at another cowboy. When shot, cowboys lose life tokens. Who you can attack is dependent on the number inside the icon and the position people are sitting at the table. Shooting icons containing a 1 means that it may be used to attack a player sitting 1 seat to your left or 1 seat to your right. Shooting icons containing a 2 means that it may be used to attack a player sitting exactly 2 seats to your left or exactly 2 seats to your right. It's important to note that when you're counting range, you do not count defeated players. Right now, Jesse Jones can shoot Molly Stark and Paul Regret with range 1 shots, and Vulture Sam and Slab the Killer with range 2 shots. Jesse is not able to reach Lucky Duke at this time, since he's 3 spaces away. Later in the game, Paul Regret is defeated. Now, Jesse can reach Lucky Duke with a range 2 shot, because defeated players are not counted when considering range. Each icon may be used to target different people, or all the same, as you see fit. You are allowed to assign more shots to a person than they have life points. Any excess damage is wasted. Once all shots have been assigned, each affected player loses 1 life token for each shot assigned to them. This is important to restate that all shots must be assigned before damage is dealt. This prevents a player from using 1 shot to defeat a player and then use another shot on a player that they originally wouldn't have had range to. So Jesse Jones would not be able to use this range 2 shot to kill Slab the Killer, just as they could use this other range 2 shot to shoot Lucky Duke. If the shooting icon contains a double ring, found only on the loudmouth die, this counts as 2 shots instead of just 1. The player is free to focus the 2 shots on 1 target or split them among 2. All dice pushed forward at the end of the turn must be resolved. A player is not allowed to not shoot if they have shooting icons available to use. So it is possible that you may have to shoot players you didn't intend to shoot. It would then be up to your negotiations to convince them that it was an accident. This is the beer symbol, and the double beer symbol that appears on the coward die. Essentially, these allow a player to heal. for each beer symbol pushed forward at the end of the turn, the player picks any player, including themselves, to gain 1 life token back. Each beer symbol may be given to a different cowboy, or all to the same. A cowboy at full health may still be given beer, but they can never gain life tokens in excess to the number listed on their character card, so beer given to them is simply wasted. Remember that the sheriff's max health is 3 higher than what is printed on his player card. Slab the Killer ends his turn with 5 shooting icons and a beer. Following action order, he must assign his shooting dice first. Angry at Vulture Sam, Slab shoots Vulture 4 times from range 2. Forced to use a shot at range 1, he has to attack Lucky Duke or Paul Regret. He decides to shoot Lucky Duke for 1 damage. Now resolving his beer icons, he decides to make amends with Lucky Duke and buys him a drink, allowing Lucky to heal the point of damage just caused to him. The last icon resolved is the Gatling gun. In order for this effect to occur, the player must have at least 3 of these icons pushed forward. If only 1 or 2 are pushed forward, they have no effect. This icon is the double Gatling gun and appears only on the loudmouth die. It counts as 2 Gatling guns, needing only 1 more Gatling to trigger its effect. When a Gatling gun is triggered, all other players lose 1 life, and this player returns all arrows in their possession back to the center. After all dice have been resolved, the dice are placed into the center, and the next player to the left choose which 5 dice they'd like to use and starts their turn with their first roll. Turns continue around the table until a victory condition is met. Victory is ultimately done by defeating players and removing them from the game. Hopefully the players you remove were in fact your enemies. A player is defeated and removed from the game when they are forced to discard their last life token. They return any arrows they had to the center and reveal their roll to the rest of the players. Their character card is returned to the box. This player is no longer counted when considering range of a shot. Of course, it is possible for cowboys to be defeated by the hands of the Indians. This can happen with frequent Indian attacks. Let's see how this works. We've seen that when a player rolls an arrow, they are required to take an arrow from the center of the table. If available, a player may take the Indian's chief arrow. This arrow counts as having 2 regular arrows, but having this in one's possession may actually protect a player from the Indians, as we'll see shortly. Players accumulate arrows in front of them until the last arrow is taken from the center. At this time, the Indians attack. Each player takes 1 token of damage for each arrow they have accumulated. If the player that has the Indian chief's arrow is the same person who has the sole majority of arrows, then this person takes no damage at all. Remember that the chief's arrow counts 2. All players return their arrows to the center, and any defeated players are eliminated from the game and reveal their rolls. It's Lucky Duke's turn, and he has just rolled an arrow. This requires him to take the last arrow from the center. This pauses his turn to allow the Indians to attack. Molly Stark, Vulture Sam, and Lucky Duke all take 1 damage and return their arrows. Slab the Killer takes 2 damage and returns these 2 arrows. Paul Regret and Jesse James both have 3 arrows, remembering that the chief's arrow counts 2. Because Paul Regret doesn't have sole majority, he will suffer the 3 damage alongside of Jesse Jones. Both will then return their arrows to the center. If Paul Regret had had 1 additional arrow, he would claim sole majority and had suffered no damage. If taking an arrow would cause the Indians to attack, but the current player still had arrows he hadn't resolved, then the player takes their additional arrows after the attack. If Lucky Duke had rolled 3 arrows instead of 1, then after taking the first, the Indians would attack. If Lucky Duke survives, He then continues his turn by taking the 2 arrows he was unable to take earlier and continues with the rest of his turn. The sheriff is the only role that is revealed at the beginning of the game. All other players have their roles kept secret. Until, that is, they like to reveal their role and activate their special one-time ability. The bottom of each role card has a special event that can be done if a player is willing to reveal their role. The time in which the role can be revealed is listed in the ability. Once a role is revealed, it remains visible for the rest of the game, so each ability may only be used once. For example, maybe the sheriff is about to be healed a large amount from beer. This cowboy can reveal his identity as an outlaw. In doing so, he prevents any healing from occurring, possibly leaving the sheriff in a weakened state. Maybe this cowboy just finished killing the last deputy, and it's now just him and the sheriff. Instead of allowing the sheriff to have the next play, he can reveal his role as the renegade and immediately take another turn. Or maybe the sheriff is in rough times and is low on health. This healthy deputy can reveal his role and become the new sheriff. This old saloon also has a haunting story to tell, for when the first cowboy is defeated, they become a ghost. In a game of 5 players or more, the first player to be defeated becomes the ghost. If the first defeat involves more than one cowboy, such as in an Indian attack, the active player, if defeated, becomes the ghost, or the defeated player closest to his left. The player becoming the ghost removes their player card from the game and replaces it with the ghost card. He also takes with it the 7 ghost tokens. The role they played in the game stays the same. If they were a deputy while alive, they remain so in death. As is true with an outlaw. Once an outlaw, always an outlaw. If the ghost player was a renegade, however, they remove their renegade role card from the game and replace it with the ghost renegade card, with the appropriate side face up, dependent on the number of players. In a 5 or 7 player game, the renegade joins the outlaws. In a 6 or 8 player game, the renegade joins the deputies. The ghost player is still considered defeated for attack range purposes. When it's the ghost's turn to play, they take only 2 basic dice from the center and roll them. The ghost gets 2 rerolls of either or both of his dice, just as if he were alive, with 2 exceptions. The ghost does not take arrows if rolled, and dynamite does not lock his dice and can be re-rolled. When the ghost pushes both dice forward, whether by choice or after his 3rd roll, the ghost must now assign one of his ghost tokens to another player. The token assigned must match one of the dice he's rolled this turn. If the ghost rolled doubles, then the ghost also places the ×2 token along with the other ghost token. When the player given the ghost tokens takes their turn, after picking dice, they must take one of the basic dice and push it forward with the result matching the token assigned to them. If the token was coupled with the ×2, then 2 dice need to be pushed forward, both showing the token's result. The tokens are now returned to the ghost. The player may now make their first roll with the remaining 3 or 4 dice in their pool. After this first roll, the player resolves all the dice as if they had rolled all 5. The player is free to pull back and push forward the dice following normal rules. This includes any dice the ghost gave them, unless, of course, the ghost gave them dynamite, in which case they are locked as normal. If the sheriff is defeated, then the game ends and the outlaws win, unless the defeat of the sheriff was done by a lone standing renegade, in which case the win is given to the renegade. If the defeated player accounts for the final outlaw and renegade in the game, the sheriff and deputies share the win. And that is everything you need to know to play Bang the Dice game, Old Saloon. Keep in mind that this Old Saloon expansion is modular, so each part is optional. You don't have to use the Loudmouth and Coward dice. You don't have to use the Chief's Arrow. The Ghost and Roll powers can be ignored. You are free to play with any combination as you see fit for your game group. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments below and I'll answer them as soon as I can. Enjoy your game!